Loro is a Hanoverian gelding and he's a really good boy. He's 16 years old and everybody just raves about him, how nice he is. And he was a pleasant horse to work with. Loro just fully recovered from a keratoma, a tumor in his hoofs, to the point that the owner couldn't even tell me which hoof it exactly was. So that's very good news. Loro moves relatively slow and he has a hard time making a smooth, round, small turn, and I also saw that his left hind leg has a little bit of a funny motion. First you just see the glutes and you could think like, yeah, I just can put a kinesio tape on that muscle and relax the muscle. But when I play that video in slow motion, you can see that there's actually more going on. It's like he's almost making a circle towards the outside and then steps too far under. And when you look at the spot I just marked, the fur in that area seems very weird and the shortness seems to come right in front of the hip. So we might have to do some visceral work there and look why he is so stiff in that midsection. Even when the horse seems very nice and easy to work with and to handle, I still like to take my time and introduce myself, to tune into his energy, to ask for permission to work with him, and to just get an idea of how long his attention span is and how he handles the touch and the energy. It was very easy to tune in with, and you can tell that even after just a few minutes he already started releasing. He lowered his head and immediately started licking and chewing and releasing his jaw when I was working on his poll. The poll of a horse has a lot of pressure and restrictions. You have the bridles and the riding, and it's always an area of interest and you get a lot of release. It's always important to be aware that we are not treating symptoms, that we are looking for the original cause of tension, and often that's far away from where the actual pain or disbalance shows itself. From working with humans over the last 25 years, I have countless people who have neck pain, and the problem was that they had a fall onto their sacrum. So I check different areas, sense and feel where my intuition leads me to, allow the horse to stretch and relax into the moment. And here on that left side where I realized I felt that tension just in front of that hip, I start stretching from the opposite end and give the horse a possibility to slowly ease into it. I don't like to go right to the spot, and I like the horse first to give me a chance to slowly circle into that area. It's always important to give the horse enough time to let that release happen. It's not always happening while you touch. Often you have to take little breaks and give the horse a moment to focus on itself. While I do a gentle 3-dimensional release with his lower vertebrae, he's releasing a lot of tension, even though he doesn't really have actual neck issues, but he releases, and I just kind of allow those vertebrae to find their balance with each other, and then the shaking of the head often helps. So I go one vertebra up and just feel how their mobility is. They move to the side, to the front, to the back. I work with the transverse fascia and the transverse membranes between the back and the abdomen and start approaching that hip. Here you see the first time that Loro actually avoids my touch and moves away, so that's a strong sign of discomfort. Checking the rib heads and the intercostal muscles and just see if I can find that area of most restriction and the stiffness in that rib cage. He definitely is not appreciating that touch on that side and tries to avoid it. But sometimes they have to stay with me for a little bit and to tune into that density of tissue before they can let go. Often doesn't take long, and then they start licking and chew again. Here I'm tuning into the organs underneath my hands. Under the top hand there's a kidney, my lower hand there's the small intestines. So I release that first, and when I feel that that's more soft, then we're going to stretch the back leg. But I don't want to force him to stretch the back leg when I don't know what he's trying to protect here.
Yeah.
So the discomfort doesn't seem too big anymore after I released the tension in the organs, so he's staying patiently and lets me release those ribs now without walking away. I believe that I addressed the underlying cause of his shortness in that left side and that compensation pattern for his hip, and now try to stretch that area and give him more release and freedom. Muscles normally tighten up in order to protect the more important area. It's like they try to protect organs, blood vessels, nerves, which are way more important than the mobility of a joint. So by just addressing the muscles without considering what the contraction actually tries to do for the body, we don't really do a favor to the horse. So it's more important to find first the cause of why something tightens up. And often it's visceral, so we go first deep into the organs and then we release the muscle structures. If it's important to tune in to the tissue when you stretch a horse's leg. You can sense and feel how far you can feel that pull, and when you find the exact appropriate amount to reach that area of the biggest tension, the horse lets go beautifully, and you can hold on to those legs and stretch them for a long time. The hind end of the horse is a complicated structure, so lots of bones and joints and ligaments, and it's important to integrate all the parts together. I go back and forth between the two ends of the spine. You have on one side the sacrum as the caudal end of the spine, and then the cranial end is the occiput. And often if you release something on one side, then you can feel that you can release more on the other side of the spine. So here I'm working on the jaw and help Loro release that tension you already felt at the beginning of our session. Which part of the jaw moves easier? So that left part of the jaw moves easier up, so that means it's more contracted together. Now then I follow up, and then he starts releasing. The right side of Loro's body doesn't seem to have any discomfort. I can do the exactly same thing and he doesn't really move away. Here I follow along the edge of the rib cage and just kind of sense and feel and compare that area to the other side. But he's less sensitive and there's way more flexibility. For me, it's important to give the owners some tools after a session so they can start working on their horses. Often it's not just a one-time fix. So like this way?
Uh-huh.
That's the first part. Just follow down. Here's the rib head. Here they start. There's all muscle. It's the spine, muscle, rib head, and then here in between the muscles. They're very sensitive and tight. Here you react, so you can just work the space. And then when you work the space, you can afterwards the ribs go like this. You compress
Uh-huh.
together into each other so they can release.
Yeah.
And then you feel how they soften on the knees.